Good morning. Hand today's pocket queens. Full ring game. Folds to me. I'm in middle position. I've been at the table 21 hands. You can see that I have a couple people who I've played with extensively. We have Cutoff, who is a loose passive player. Definitely a loose passive player. We have a more tight, probably aggressive, somewhat aggressive player on the button, playing 17%. Probably could be a little bit more aggressive, but I'd say he's definitely more aggressive than this player. And then I have the button, who is more of a looser passive type. He has some aggressive tendencies, that's for sure. I wouldn't quite call him a lag. I wouldn't quite call him a tag. He's kind of like in the middle. So I should be coloring these. And actually, let me do that. Voila. All right, so I only colored this one. I think these players are kind of like in between. I don't really have a color for them. They're just kind of in between tight passive, loose, tight passive, tight aggressive, loose passive, loose aggressive. All right, so I think since we are in middle position, we're just going to use our standard. And I think that's okay. He does call 43%. So if at the table we think he's going to be calling a lot, and if he calls, then we have these extra players start to call, then we can start to size up a little bit. Or you just keep standard. I mean, we are in middle position. Why build a pot excessively when we are out of position? I think that's kind of my standard, is why build a pot unless we have reason to think. So like if I was on the button, I'm sorry, in the cutoff, and this villain 2 was on the button, I think it's a different kind of situation. But because I'm in middle position, I have 3 players behind me, I think it's better just to go for the standard 3 big blind and see what happens. So as it turns out, we have 2 players to call. We do have this player who is going to be a little bit looser, but then we have this unknown. 33 hands, he's played 31%. So I think with this player, he is going to be kind of a looser, weaker type player. He hasn't 3-bet, but out of 33 hands, he only had 5 attempts. I think most people 3-bet at least kings plus, usually ace king as well. I think these players will call pocket pairs. They're going to call suited aces. This player's probably calling suited connectors, suited gappers, probably all of the Broadway, both suited and offsuit Broadways. Might be calling suited kings, at least a king 8. What about offsuit aces? Maybe offsuit ace down to like ace 8 or so. And I think we're gonna leave that just as that range. What about the button? Button's in the big blind. He's getting a little bit better odds now that we have one caller. His call 2-bet is 21%. I do think he's calling with something decent. It's speculative hand. I expect him to 3-bet his better hands. So if he 3-bets versus mid position, he's going to have, a much better hand. And I think this is a situation where a player like this, especially showing 13% pre-flop raise, 4% 3-bet, he's going to be betting his good hands, his solid hands. So I think when we look at this, we're also going to give him very speculative hands. Let's give him pocket pairs minus, queens plus. We'll leave, I think we'll leave ace queens in his range. We're going to give him the suited aces. We're going to give him some of these suited connectors and broadways. And that's 16%. Maybe a little too tight still. Nah, I think when we factor in his 3-bet stat, I think we're going to be good. So we're going to go with that range. So versus these 2 players, I'm going to go ahead and get my my range into my sheet, my range sheet. So I've raised with 16.4%. I have 218 combos, and right now I have aces, kings, ace, king in my range. I can't say the same thing about these other players. So we see a flop, king, king, six. And you know, it kind of looks scary. Yeah, if they have a king, that's unfortunate for us. But with two kings out, there's only two kings left in the deck, and when you look at what they have, yeah, this guy can definitely have kings. He's gonna have more kings than either of us because I'm giving him the suited kings. But this guy's pretty unlikely to have kings. I can have some kings, but again, I'm gonna be pretty unlikely. So this isn't. I mean, this is a board that I see a lot of people bet, or a lot of people check here just because they're scared of the kings. I think you can bet it, but I think when you bet it, I think a lot of people are because they're afraid of the kings, are going to be folding too much. So the situation in this hand is, how do I make more money? How do I get the money? I'm okay betting here with a lot of my bluffs and just picking it up, but I don't want to do that when I have kings. I don't want to do that when I have pocket sixes. I don't want to do that when I have aces or queens or jacks. You know, that figure to be the best hand at this point. So we have to kind of start to plan ahead. And I'm thinking right now we're going to be checking here. Yeah, we're going to give the club up. We're going to give a chance for the club to get there, but and we'll lose some value if someone's going to call with clubs. But you know, I'm willing to take that chance because you know, when we look at how likely someone is to have that flush draw, well, 7% of hands for the looser of the two opponents, but you know, we've got 10% for this player. So you know, 7% of his total hands will be a flush draw versus, you know, 11% for, you know, the tighter player. Basically, you know, why the difference? Because he has many more hands that completely miss, that won't have that flush draw. So villain 5 checks. I'm going to assume that he's going to check everything. I don't have him donking the flop at all, so 0 out of 45. So his standard is going to be to check. I did check. And let's go through and see what we're going to check here. So I think let's get our checking for value. We're going to check quads. I mean, without a doubt, we're going to check a full house. I think, you know, I'm going to check 3 of a kind without a doubt. Maybe not all 3 of a kind. We'll see. We'll see how it kind of breaks down. We're going to check 3 of a kind. I think the overpair is where we start to consider, should we bet or should we check. So, you know, I think with the overpair we're going to have aces. I think this is a great time to check because if an ace falls, anyone that called with an ace queen, ace jack, they would fold right now to a bet. But once that ace comes, they're going to pay the turn. They're going to probably pay the river on it. So I think the overpair is going to be a good check. And I also think a lot of our pocket pair below the top cards are going to be checks, especially queens and jacks. I think 7, 8s, 9s, and 10s are questionable, especially 10s are kind of the cutoff area, because with the 10s, we have to worry about jack, queen, and aces. If we have 9s, now we have to add the 10s to that. So I think if we check with 10s, jacks, or with jacks and queens, that's okay. We're gonna, you know, there's not gonna be a whole lot of cards in that'll come on the turn that could possibly give someone a better pair. So I think we can kind of check and give these a free card. 7, 8s, 9s, I think is where we're going to start to bet. And that's where I think the 10s are kind of in that cutoff range. So I think we're going to be checking that. Middle pair would be a bet. I would definitely be betting here, middle pair. I think I would bet pocket pair below the board. And then the ace highs are going to be made with our flush draws. I think we would be betting. I think some of our 2-card backdoor flush draws are also going to be betting. So hands that I think are going to be betting. Let's see here. Hands that I think we're going to be betting here. Is all of the aces, I think. The ace queen, to ace 2 suited. I think we're going to be betting those. And then I think queen jack, queen 10, jack 10. You know, those hands that could end up catching, you know, improving to a straight draw, or, you know, improving to a flush draw on the turn. I do want to go back one other hand that I think we're going to have, that we could have in our betting range, and that is some of our ace highs. These offsuit aces, the ace queen, ace king, when we have the ace of clubs, I think that makes a good bet as a bluff, because we have the ace of clubs. We block all of the ace x club hands, so it makes it less likely that they have the clubs that they're going to be able to continue, which means we're going to get a lot more folds. So I think we're going to be betting a lot of those. So you can see a lot of my checks are going to be, you know, premiums, as well as no made hands minus our flush draws. And we're going to X out our 2-card backdoor flush draws. Jack 9 needs a 10 and a queen. I think we're going to probably just cut it there. Yeah, so we X those out. And then ace high hands, we're going to have to get suits on here. So we're going to do suit selection. We want that, those. 2. Did that apply selection? I don't think that applied selection. That didn't apply selection. All right, let me pause and figure out how to get these. So I think it was automatically. So it's up there. I got my marks. They're there. I've applied the suit selection. So we can have all of those minus the clubs in our range, and with our ace highs, we are going to take out those. Oops, hold on. No, that's not right. Okay, let's do our suit selection again. Okay. Yes, that's better. So we've got, yeah, we only have the clubs in that range. All right, that's better. All right, so that's going to be my, no, that's not right. I was going to bet those. Let's do this again. Because we're checking it. All right. So that's in our range because we're checking it. And all of these are in our range because we checked it. So no made hand, ace high hands, pocket pair below the board. So 55.6%. That's what we're going to be betting. That looks good. Villain 1 checks as well. So we know this player, the blind, was going to be checking 100%. This player, now that everyone checked, I think we're going to include like full house and quads in his checking range. But I think 3 of a kind overpair, these pocket pair below top pair, middle pair. I think middle pair is going to be probably a check. I'm going to say pocket pair below the top card is also going to be a check. But, you know, any of those kings are going to be a bet. I think he's going to be looking at that. I think the flush draw is probably going to bet here. Although he is passive. So let's actually give him a check on all of those. So the only hand that he would have bet would be the king, because he's trying to get, you know, the clubs out. And then if the club comes, he's just going to check or call all the way down. So let's say that's his range. So we're going to see a turn. Oops. Let's get that. 2 of diamonds. So that doesn't really change anything. And you can see out of all 3, I'm still ahead. I should still be ahead because I'm going to be checking a lot. Now, villain 5 checks, and I think once we checked, I think he can still check his full house, but oh no, did I do that? Yeah, let's take that out. What? I did the wrong. Oh no, I didn't. That's his 2 of diamonds. All right, so our blind, he checked pre-flop. Now, I kind of think he's going to check the full house again, but I think 3 of a kind's going to be betting here. So any good solid hand is going to bet to try to prevent that club from coming out. So I think full house. I think the flush draw, the gut shot's going to be checking, but we're going to be looking at a lot of these weaker hands. Maybe pocket pair below the top card is going to bet. I think what we'll do is drop it down to 50%. And I think if they bet 50% of those, I think 50% is going to be betting here. And I say that because he does have some aggressive tendencies to where he's going to be betting some of those hands. So 50%, he's betting, you know, those pairs. He's betting bottom pair. I think he's checking pocket pair, second card, weak pair, no made hand. So I think that's going to be his checking range. And now it's on to us. What do we do? I think we checked our premium hands along with some of our no made hands. And once that 2 came out, I think we should be looking to try to get a little bit of value here. So, you know, we slowed down. We're hoping now that gives somebody with like queens or jacks or tens a reason to call, because they're going to think, well, maybe he doesn't have the king. Let's call once and see what happens. So I think I'm going to be betting some of these premium hands. Not quads. I'm going to check quads. So definitely going to check quads. But I think full house we're going to bet. I do think we should be betting. If everyone folds, so be it. No one had any hand to continue with. But I think we need to start getting some money in there. With the quads, that's a little bit different because we know that there's no kings out there, so we're hoping that they improve somewhat. And I think what we're kind of hoping is that someone has a pocket pair and either connected with a full house himself and are slow playing, or that next card's going to give him a slow play. So I think with quads we're going to check. With a full house we're going to bet. I think we're going to bet with 3 of a kind as well. And I think we're going to bet with the over pair. And then these other pocket pair below the top cards that we have, tens, jacks, and queens, I still think we should be, these aren't like 2 streets of values hands. I think it works better for us to check and possibly call if villain 1 check and call if villain 1 bets, and if it gets checked through, then we make our bet and hope someone calls with that. So I think along with quads, we're going to leave the pocket pair below the top card in our range, along with, I think, some of these. I think we're betting No-made hands. We have a lot of no-made hands, and unfortunately, we don't have any of those small cards that would give us a gut shot. I think we're probably going to be checking a lot of those. So really, when we bet, we're gonna definitely be skewed. Weak pair, I think, could be used as a bluff. We're hoping that maybe some, with the two, that somebody's going to say that maybe we don't have anything. And I kind of think the same thing with the ace queen, ace jack. We're going to bet that and hope that everyone folds. I mean, we've got some showdown value with that, but I think that's going to balance. I think those hands balance the bets that we have with that full house. So I think what we're going to do is this. We're going to select those aces out and keep all of the other aces, and that's the weak pair we had as a bet. We're gonna leave those out. So that's going to be my checking range. And now villain 1 bets. So now with villain 1 betting, could he bet with a full house? Yeah, possibly he could. But I kind of think he's going to be betting these middle pairs, like all of the pairs, and try to pick up the hand because no one showed anything. I mean, he's passive, so I'm not sure if the weak pair, the ace 2 bets. I'm not sure if these 2s, 3s, 4s bets. Maybe I'm kind of thinking it's more going to be middle pair, pocket pair below the top card, and then near full house. I don't think flush draw is going to bet. So I think that's what he's going to be betting. Villain 5 folds. So he's probably in that 59% no-made hand. And then it's on to us. So we have all of those hands. I think we're going to be calling quads. We're going to be calling pocket pair. Actually, we could probably check raise the quads, but I think that's kind of the strategy we have to consider. If we raise here, is he going to call now, or would he call on the river? And possibly, if the club gets there, we can bet. And if he has a full house, he's going to raise us, and then we get it all in. And I think that's kind of what we're going to target if we think he's going to do that with the club. Obviously, it works better with a player that's a little bit more aggressive. But right now, we have to consider that this player, 31-9, he is exhibiting some passive tendency. Maybe he does that with his flush draw. Maybe he doesn't. We'll just leave that as is. So I think for here, because he seems to be a little bit more passive, I think it's going to be quads we're going to call. We're going to call pocket pair. We're going to call with those. But now we're going to X out all of those ace high hands. We're going to take those out. So I did. All right. So I have pretty narrow range at this point. So I got 18.4%. Number of combos that I have is 19. This player, we're going to say that's his turn range. It's 22.1% of his flop range, and the number of combos that he has is 56. So let's go back and go to here and copy that. Get that and make sure that that's 87.1%, and he has 257 combos. I'm going to go back because I realized I didn't get mine. So this was 55.6, and I have 104 combos. So when that 2 of diamonds comes, you can see at the end I'm ahead. I figure to be ahead. So 3 of diamonds definitely misses everything. And that means we have 73.1% versus 26.9%. What are we looking at here? And decision is, do we think, is he going to bet with more hands than what he's going to call? Or is he going to call at the same frequency? I think we're going to probably just check everything that we have. We already checked. We got our 1 street of value that we wanted from here. I think with quads, we are hoping that he somehow improved and that he bets, and then we can go ahead and raise with quads and try to get it in. So I did check, so I'm going to be checking 100% because I have my range. He chose to check, which means I don't think he has a full house. I think he's going to have one of these middle pair, pocket pair below the top cards, hopefully. So I show the queens, he shows ace jack, which is actually surprising. I had ace jack in his range, but not on the river. So what happened here? He actually made a bluff. So if he's bluffing with the no mate hand, with all of that, then he's got a very wide range on the river. And you can see that it's going to be unlikely that he's going to be betting any of those, and maybe we can bet. And he calls just the bluff catch, but overall, I still think it's going to be, he didn't have anything at all. So let's get a note on here. Turn. So he called pre-flop, let's see, MPs, pre-flop raise from MP with ace jack off, flop checks, and then bet when checked to with ace high. How about this? Kind of get something in there. And I think we could probably add how much. So you bet half pot. Let's add that. All right. So we didn't have it in his range, but I think we were playing. We didn't include a lot of bluffs because we didn't think he was going to be super aggressive, playing 31-9. But now we know that he can bluff. So I think once he can bluff, we can kind of look at it and say, okay, well, if we bet the turn, if we bet the flop, he's not going to call that. If we bet the turn, he's probably not going to call that. Our only shot then, versus a guy that's capable of bluffing like with ace high, is to check, and call, and then hope that he bets again on the river. Not optimum, but overall, I mean, we're looking at we had 4.68 big blinds more than what we could have just won, but with a bet on the flop or a delayed c bet on the turn. All right, if you like this, look tomorrow for another hand.